Us to your kingdom. God, it's a privilege to be saved. It's a privilege to serve you. And we do thank you for leaders who give us warning and give us wisdom. And Father, we want to take that seriously. I pray over this meeting today, God, that your purposes for it will be accomplished. We pray for Clint, God, to communicate well. Pray all of us to hear what you're saying, God, and to get good ideas and practical steps we can take. In Jesus' name, amen.
So the scripture we got basically is, let us not grow weary in well-doing, for at the proper time we will see the harvest when we don't give up. And we know we're not quitters. And so just a little business. We do have an emergency phone list now in everybody's mailbox that lives at Morningstar. The emergency, well, actually, it's not an emergency phone list. It's an emergency alert. And so what that is we will not be using it. We will just be getting an alert if there is an immediate emergency, such as, please, everybody, do not leave their room, or everybody needs to meet in the Grand Cafe now. And that is only a one-way phone system. We will not be responding. We will just be going where the alert is. Now, if we see an emergency, such as somebody's breaking into the tower, etc., on the same paper, we're going to have the number for the safety kiosks. And that's a number that we can reach if we need help. So there'll be two numbers. We have them over there on the table. Marsha, would you mind going over and picking up the list? I'll just show you what it's like, and it will be in mailboxes as well.
Here?
Yes. So far...
You want me to pass these out?
No. I just want to show you guys what it is, and please take a copy when you leave. Otherwise, it will be in your mailbox. Just so that you're looking for it and you know what it is. And going forward, there's just been a lot of good things happening with our beds. And some of the things that were already planted in the garden are tomatoes, green beans, sweet potatoes, radishes, basil, eggplant, squash, peppers, and edible flowers. So we will be planning to have an autumn garden as well. And we have watering schedules all running smoothly right now. And also, Ruth brought her sprouting ideas here for us to look at. And also we have a sign up for a couple workshops during sabbatical. If you're interested in learning to grow microgreens, there's a place to check it. And Marsha, would you mind getting that form too? And then some people, Mary and Lynn Cotton, would like to do a canning workshop. So if you're interested in any of these two workshops, then just come at the end of the meeting and put your name down, write legibly, please, email and phone number, and which or both workshops you're interested in. And we'll contact you and find out what the best day is for you and the teachers. Ruth, would you like to come up and demonstrate? So also on the table, there are a myriad of different seeds that people can sprout. And the good thing about it is it doesn't take up much room, and it sprouts quickly for immediate food.
Hello, everybody. Sorry. Hello, everybody. This is a surprise. I wasn't really expecting. Dave said he would do the presentation, but we felt the desire to have our own sprouts because we love alfalfa sprouts, and the nutrition that comes from them is excellent. So we bought this little tray set up from Amazon. You can buy it online. It's not that expensive. And we bought seeds that go with it. The ones that we're currently growing in here are broccoli seeds. But the idea is you soak them for 6 to 8 hours so that it starts the husk to soften. And then you put them in your tray like that. You can see they're just beginning to grow. And you rinse them several times a day. And that gets rid of some of the toxins that grow when they are sprouting, and also encourages the seeds to get bigger. Then they will grow. We've had them push the top off of this little thing before when they just grow up. And then you harvest them whenever they taste good, and you can throw them on salads, you can put them in soups, you can put them in your breads, you can put them in all kinds of things. And the nutrients are good because the seed has already germinated and it releases a lot of its nutrition. So here's the little booklet. If you are more interested in this particular tray, I'll leave it over there. The thing that's important is to find a source of seeds that is intended for sprouting and not for planting in the ground, because seeds that you plant in the ground are sometimes pre-treated with a fungicide and things like that so that they'll germinate, and that's bad for people. So you want to find a good source of organic seeds. Anything else, Adrian?
That's wonderful.
And
it's an investment you make once, and we've had that for years.
yeah. And sadly, they say don't put it in the dishwasher. I put mine in the dishwasher and it warps, so when they say don't put it in the dishwasher, they mean it. So,
Did you find which seeds did you
Okay.
find that were good?
Keep somebody go around.
I enjoy the well, Dave likes the tart ones, like radishes taste hot. So if you like spicy things, you can sprout things that are spicy. The broccoli has a little bit more. I like the sweet ones, like the alfalfa. But you can sprout anything. You can sprout legumes, like lentils, mung beans. You can sprout grains. You can sprout seeds like these. So there's lists of different things on the flyer that you can sprout. So if you want to take a look at it, there's more information. Any other things? And I want to welcome Mr. Clint Rogers. He was my daughter's teacher in high school. Excellent resource, a lot of different varieties. And I want to ask him, which president are you representing today with your coiffure?
Well, I'm going to be doing the losers.
The loser presidents.
Yeah, like James Blaine
Here.
and Willie. Yeah, Wendell Wilkie, and so that'll be my next.
The next thing,
Yeah, hopefully soon.
just in case you don't know what I am talking about, he did his beard and his hair to mimic all of the presidents of the United States for his history class, and then he took photographs of them through time. It was excellent. Very good, Mr. Rogers.
Yeah, it's called the Presidential Hair Challenge, and I was hoping other history teachers. I'm a history teacher at the high school at Morningstar here, and no one has accepted the challenge. Because it was when all these challenges were going around, I'm like, oh, I bet, this would be fun for other history teachers to see if they could recreate the presidents. And anyway, I'm still waiting, my first challenger. Okay, we ready? I'm going to stay seated over here just because I don't want to feel like I'm some kind of expert. So feel free to lean in or come over here, or let me know if you can't hear me. I have an interesting story. To me, it's interesting. When I moved onto the grounds in 2006, and so I've been here 10 years. I lived across the street where the parrots live. And so somewhere in that time period, Rick's been talking about tough times for a long time. He's been saying to buy 22 rounds every time you go to Walmart for over 10 years. And so somewhere around in there, I started getting interested in the whole end times thing, or whatever, troubling times. And so I felt like the Lord started to give me revelations or questions that I didn't really expect. It's not my interest of outdoor hiking or any of that stuff. I was not in the military, although I love history in the military. But he started telling me, I felt like things, like interesting things, strange things that I think could be helpful to people. And first of all, I want to pray a couple of things over all of us. First of all, I want to pray that anything that I say is not from the Lord. I pray that it will just settle to the ground like dust and not distract anyone. And then I want to declare that this is the day the Lord has made, and we will rejoice and be glad in it. And so all these things here, like one of the things, I don't know if you can read them, but these are all the different scenarios that could happen. And the SHTF is what I like to say. It's when the stuff hits the fan. But these actually, because I follow current events and everything, these are actually pretty close now. When I was writing them down, I was like, these are really closer than they should be. And I just pray that none of this is ever needed. That honestly, I don't want to get into any of this stuff, but we do. The Bible's clear about some of us have to be prepared. So first of all, and feel free to interrupt, yes.
Would you mind reading those out for us in the back here?
Yeah, it says martial law, plagues, the grid goes down, a nuclear war, which used to sound, I grew up in the 70s and in the 80s, and it was semi plausible, but in the 60s, if you were going through the Cuba stuff, it was probably a little more scary with that. But a trucker strike, which is a good possibility because of the price of diesel, a civil war, and earthquakes, floods, even asteroids. I mean, so what we're talking about, what I was asked to talk about is bartering, and that's where most of my information is. But I want to just keep referring to the Bible because, the Lord is in control, and I believe that. And Rick, I like it when he says that the Christian life should be an adventure, and I think this is part of that. Whenever I personally get into this and research it, I don't get any kind of fear or anxiety. I like to rest in just being able to help people with it. So I don't really get caught up in the drama and whatnot. And that was one of the things that was interesting is when I started learning, it was at a different angle. And one of the things the Lord said is like, he started giving me questions to ask people, and he said, watch what they're going to say. And it's one of those neat prophetic kind of things. So first of all, I want to start out, if you don't mind, if you have a phone, to put it in front of you, because as a high school teacher, this is what we do. I mean, you don't have to dig it out of your stuff, but just put it where you can't use it. Just for a second. You can get it back in a second. All right. So with that being said, let's all turn to Matthew 24.
It's on my phone.
Yeah, it's on right.
In class, you can't touch your phone. This is my first lesson that if you don't have a Bible, I mean, a lot of this sounds stupid, sounds obvious, but when you go through it, you're forced to, it's a little more learning. In Matthew 24, is anybody familiar with that? It's the Lord is talking about, I was blessed enough to go with the school to Israel twice, got to go to Jerusalem, where the stones were that supposedly Satan was standing up there and had Jesus, and he was promising him. And anyway, Jesus said all these are going to be down, and there are stones that are laid down there that the Israelis leave, that the Romans push down, and it's a really neat place. So then he gets into, in the verse, about the 10 virgins. and then giving the bags of money, the 5 bags, the 2 bag, the 1. So I think y'all are familiar with this. But I also need, if somebody will come help me pass out these for me, anybody at all? Just, if you don't mind, give everybody 1 of each so that everybody has 3 Post-its.
Shall I pass out pens?
If you need a pen, it looks like y'all can share. You're not going to do a lot of writing, but as long as you have somebody next to you with one. But I wanted to read Matthew 24, and I want you to feel like if you don't have a real Bible, that's going to be probably the most important thing, because if the grid does go down and we can't use digital stuff, I think a lot of us aren't even going to, especially the younger, they're not going to be able to process it. And a lot of what I'm telling you guys are my age and up is our way of thinking. Their way of thinking, unless you work with them all the time, it'll shock you. And you have to ask them, what are you thinking? Tell me what you're thinking. And they don't want to tell you because they think it's a trick question, but it's a whole different mindset. So anyway, Matthew 24, does everybody have 1 of each?
Not yet.
Yeah, you're going to have a white one, a green one, and a yellow one.
White one. Okay.
It's pretty a downer. It's like, this is going to happen, and then still people are going to be false prophets, and this is going to happen. And the more that we go through our world today, the more this stuff makes sense to me. Then it gets into 25 about then the kingdom of heaven should be likened unto 10 virgins, which took their lamps and went forth to meet the bridegroom. Unless you're like a Bible scholar, the weddings, the type of weddings and marriages that they did in those days had symbolism that's lost on us. And so I don't even know all the stuff. But anytime I learn something, like, for example, you may have heard this, then the wedding had to do with the father having enough money and stuff, wine, and so the groom didn't know the wedding. The father would come to the groom and be like, okay, it's next weekend. And then the groom would go run to the bride. And that's how, I don't know if everybody's heard that, but that is why the Lord Jesus says, even I don't know that the time, only the Father knows. That's one of the things. When I learned that, I was like, oh, okay. And he's going to come get his bride, which is us. So anyway, he gave out, there are 5 acting wise and 5 foolish. And the foolish went out with no oil, and the wise they're like, wait, we should bring a bunch of oil. And the reason is they didn't know how long it would take. No one knew. And so in the story, the bridegroom finally comes. The 5 that didn't have the oil, or they asked those of us with the oil for oil. We said, no, why don't you go buy some? And the 5 went to go buy it, and when they got back, the door had been shut to the marriage, and they weren't allowed in. And so I'm going to use that in a minute. Anybody have any observations or anything? Feel free. I tell all of my students in my classes to interrupt me. I say, I'll take it as an honor that you have the guts. And I usually talk about myself in the third person because my name's Mr. Rogers, and that's just a great name, blessed with. And so I'm like, Mr. Rogers, I want you to speak your mind. You know, especially the ones who don't agree or angry or like, I don't believe that. If I can get them to do that, I always think that that's a good day. All right, so the first thing I wanted to say is does everybody have the things, the notes? On the white one, write down the one barter item, and please don't look at your wife or friend. The one barter, hide this.
Okay.
The one barter item.
She just came in, and so did another
All right, come over
person.
here, and I got you. You might be the 5 that didn't have the oil.
Come on over. You can. No, you need to
I'm
get these
just kidding.
papers.
The one barter item. No, you're here. You're in the.
Yeah, you need to get it.
All right, that's okay. That you think is the best. I already see y'all cheating and looking at each other's stuff. Do not even let your wife or your husband see this. One thing. Now, this isn't necessarily like your favorite thing, like chocolate or something. This is like what you think. And again, we're in all these different scenarios. There's different things that we could be going through. There could be things that aren't that bad. There could be horrible. So this is just for discussion. I believe that our discussion will benefit all of us. Okay, does everybody have that? Would someone take them up for me and bring them over here?
Oh no! So can you repeat what we're doing?
Yeah.
I don't
One
think.
more question like that, Adrian, I'm kicking you out of class.
I heard. Yeah,
Just
yeah,
kidding. That's
yeah.
something Mr. Rogers would say. And we're out of school, and that's it. Actually, they love that. Whenever I've been teaching 22 years, and I've gotten more and more like that in class. They eat that up. There's no
Our whole-
students in here.
Our whole table didn't get it. I don't know.
I got it.
Oh.
All right, y'all gotta
Well,
stay
most
with
of our
me.
table.
You gotta say one thing that you would barter if things got terrible and everything collapsed. What do you think? Write on your sheet. Don't look at anybody else's. Quickly.
Can you give us an example?
No examples. If I give you this example, you'll copy it right on paper, and then I'll want you to jump out that door window.
There's a difference between what I think is the best and what's available to me.
All right, pick the first one you said.
And you said what's the best, so that's what I
Well,
picked.
I'm going to give you the white one.
No, I don't want
Oh,
what's
here.
available. I want what you think in your thinking is the best.
If I could do
We
anything.
need to get you a
Yeah, anything. You don't have it.
No.
No.
To barter.
Yeah, this goes on the white one.
Play this game, let's like.
Somebody-
She's got the white one.
You're making me feel like I'm in teacher classroom mode.
Yes, ma'am. You want some yellow ones?
No, just needed one for
Okay.
this. Dear Mark,
Thank you, sweetie.
you're welcome.
Two people I'm mad at already.
Uh-oh.
I'm one of them.
Attitude?
I think so.
Does spelling count?
No, it does not. Oh my gosh. Yeah, Mr. Bird can testify. If you work with kids today, the spelling, you gotta let that go because their spelling is.
Atrocious.
And, you know, a lot of it has to do with texting and messaging and all that. And, you know, I don't know. We don't have time to do everything. But you can tell them, like, I like to write up the worst ones. And I'm like, this is, and they'll be like, really? It's like that? Like, yes. And I always have fun. All right, so I'm looking at these. I have everybody's. 3 people are not participating. And boo on you. You just got to throw something down there.
Yeah, that's a message in and of itself.
Yeah. Oh, there is.
You don't need anything.
Here's 2 more.
There are. These are all pretty good. Y'all are pretty ahead of the curve. There's better ones, if you ask me. Now, I have a riddle mystery question for everyone. Why is there is not one perfect barter item? Now, once again, if we had a civil war, it would be different than if we had the grid go down, and so let's forget about that. But there is not one. Does anybody know why? There's not one. Okay, Mr. Hurd.
If everybody had the same item, you couldn't trade.
Exactly.
Okay, what's another way to say that? Someone?
We need to pass the mic around when people talk, because we are recording. Ruth?
Well, y'all could have this, and I would be perfectly fine to not be recorded.
Say it again.
That's okay, she's got it.
If we all had the same item, then we wouldn't have anything to barter with.
Okay.
Any trading partners?
Anyone else want to add?
I thought that was a
Open
group.
market, you all got different things.
Okay.
Yeah, y'all are both pretty close.
Okay.
What I was thinking.
Where have you barely have?
As an open market, we have different things that we have, different things we collect.
Yeah. Yeah, y'all are pretty close. This is what I would add to that. It all depends on who's in here. And that changes with whatever community you're in. And y'all are the same. But, 5 of you put water, and there's only one food on here out of 20. We've got salt, a lot. That's a good one. But it depends on us knowing who we're going to be with and then not replicating it to make itself stronger, right? I think. And if you're going to be in a community like y'all are in, y'all have an advantage in that you have a meeting like this. This is like an amazing opportunity. Now, when I left here 6 years ago, or 5 years ago, I moved out to a farm in Union County. And that part of that was my story. I have 5 kids and a wife. And so I would have been in this community, and I'm still in this community as long as during working school time. But I was on this land, and I walked this land, and I know a lot about this, and I had a big heart for this, and that's why I wanted to come and do whatever I could add into this conversation. But a barter, what I wanted to say is you have to go ahead and start letting people know what you are going to specialize in. And the more you pick your things, and everybody doesn't have to know, but some people have to know, like people that are loyal and are close to you, so that you're not all getting the same. Everybody doesn't have bullets, because I once got a word, and I don't know if this was a real word or whatever kind of word, but I'm going to claim it, that I was going to trade a rooster for a rifle. I was going to barter it was actually like a semi-automatic, right? A nice one for a rooster. And it wasn't like, it was a real word. And it was kind of scary. It still is kind of scary. But the point is, I know people that have 20, 30 or more weapons. And I'm sure that y'all do too. But depending on the scenario, that's not going to do any good. If you have a couple of hens and you don't have a rooster, then I'm the man.
Oh, that's true.
Because I have 20 or 20 something roosters. And most people don't have them because they're kind of annoying. They have all this territorial thing. And for whatever reason, I kind of fell in love with them and have like a heart for roosters. And I think I'm like a grown-up, trying to be a grown-up human rooster too, probably. But I learned how to get them to do whatever I wanted on my farm, and I have like 20 of them. And most people get rid of them because what they do, they cause trouble. But if you have chickens and you want to have chicks, you have to have a rooster. A hen will have eggs for years, but those eggs won't hatch. And she won't even sit on them. She knows if they're fertilized, which is very interesting. Sometime around April, May, some of them start sitting on the eggs and start piling them up, and it's called going broody. And she won't do it if the eggs aren't fertilized. I do not know how they know that. But if you were to buy eggs from me, which I sell, all my eggs are pretty much fertilized because there's so many roosters running around. But anyway, the bartering thing is important for people to know what, and I was never called to prep. I was really called more to barter. And what I wanted to say is, if you're going to prep, which means that you've got all the stuff you need for your family, you've got to decide, and these are just my thoughts, you can throw it in the trash can. But this is what I felt like the Lord told me when I started, what should I do? If you're going to prep, you're going to have to be able to kill your neighbor. And because if it got to the point where they were starving, their children were starving, and again, this is an extreme. The mobs or whoever are going to come in and you're going to have to decide whether or not you're going to just give out your stuff, like take it, or, that's the decision that you have to make if you're going to have weapons and you're going to prep a bunch of stuff. And I feel like I should share that, and I share it whenever I feel led to, but I don't feel like I can do that. My trust is in the Lord. I mean, if I'm in danger and I feel like I need to protect someone, I think I could do that. But I don't think someone who's crazy trying to steal my food, I don't think I could. I don't know. But I do think that that's a decision you have to make. Are you going to get a lot of weapons and a lot of rounds and all that kind of stuff? I'm not going to do that. I have some, but I'm not going to. I would rather use those as money and trading the bullets than, I'm not going to set up. I don't plan on shooting at a lot of people in time of crisis, and I find that hard to reconcile as a Christian. I'm sure that some of us might have to, I think you all understand what I'm trying to say. And you don't have to agree. But I studied that for years for myself. So what the Lord did say is to me, I felt like, is that you only really need to be able to survive about 6 weeks if it's a bad situation. If it's not a bad, and we should think about the worst case scenarios, I think, if we're going to prepare, because you'd rather be, going all the way with it in your mind than. So some of the things are shocking that I'm going to throw out there, but the Lord led me down this thing, and I was like, oh, okay.
I'll let you complete your thought, but I'm curious where you got that number of 6 weeks.
Okay.
Can you explain that, please?
So I studied other places in the world, like this was right before the Arab Spring in 2012, when the Tunisia and the riots and the mobs started going around Egypt, and studied what those mobs did in those cities. And I was living in Baden Village, and I was actually on the HOA, getting your trash cans, fines, and we had about 600 homes, and we were building Fallbrook, Balmoral, Stanton Heights, and Regent Park, not even mention Regent Park. There's 1,000 to 2,000, probably pushing 3,000 with Orchard Brook, whatever. And so I would say probably 5 to 10% of these people have prepared for a month of eating. I mean, anybody want to challenge that? You think that half the people are prepared? I mean, just ask people, and we don't even count because we're kind of like, we've heard this. But if you ask somebody that's not churched or whatnot, I don't know. And I asked a lot of people. I was working in a restaurant. I used to have to moonlight. And I was around a lot of lost people. I was just asking people, and it was crazy. And so I'm going to ask a couple more things that I found out through that. But before I forget, the 6 weeks thing is that the people are going to go nuts and kill each other in that period of time. And I don't know if it's 8 weeks or 3 months or 2 weeks. But if you're in a city, could you imagine being in a city like New York or Philadelphia? They're going to have to, there's no food, and there's really not access to water. It's not going to be, and that's what happened in some of these countries. This has happened in some countries, Ecuador, Venezuela, and what people do and what they resort to and things. And again, I'm not going to keep saying this. I believe this is not going to happen, and the Lord is going to set us apart and all that. But we have to go all the way if we're going to talk about it, and that's how I feel. But the amount of food or whatever that you would need is not for 6 months or a year. It's for enough to get through whatever this purge thing would be. That's what the Lord told me. And so that changes it, but you don't have to stock up, 400 cans of tuna or whatever you're doing. And again, this is just my piece, and I don't claim to be a know-it-all or anything. I want to be unassuming. Another thing I wanted to say is, I brought this bag in. I didn't bring in some tactical black backpack. And I don't want to be, I want to, and if the people that are really serious and have thought about this stuff do things like that, and they don't, they don't talk a lot about what they have. They don't have, you got to be careful. If you need to be careful who you tell what you do have, honestly. In a place like this is a community where we're going to be sharing. But if you were living in a neighborhood, you need to be careful, right? Who you're telling what. Depending on what would happen in the scenario. So, next thing is, where are you going to stay? If we had a martial law situation, what it would be like is you have 48 hours, you have 72 hours to get where you're going to get, and then all of the major interstates are going to be locked down. So you have to decide, are you going to stay here, or are you going to go to your mother's or your son's house? And that was another thing. And so if I was to go down to where my parents live in Lake Seminole, Georgia, it's 445 miles, and my car gets about 20 miles to the gallon, and that works out to about 20 gallons to get there. So I need to be able to have 20 gallons of gas. And I'm just giving you sort of extemporaneously. So I went and got 2 10-gallon gas cans, which are not easy to find. Most of those those little ones that you get at, if you don't have one, you run out of gas at the gas station, that's about a 2 gallon. And to get a 5 gallon is hard to find. And you can't really get a 10 gallon unless you order it offline. And just FYI, it's $10 or $20 for a 2 gallon. You know, and you wouldn't want to have 10 2-gallon gas cans in your car with whatever your family. Because if we got into some kind of problem where there's not going to be access to gas, I mean, this just shows you the thinking. And I felt like the Lord said, you need to have 2 10-gallon tanks so that if you had to go down to Lake Seminole, you could go do that, and you're good. And so, yeah, I forgot about the gas price. That's kind of out the window now.
You go up $10 a gallon here pretty soon.
Yeah. All right, so anybody want to add to that? I'm kind of just showing what I heard, and maybe something will help you.
I was just gonna say that the roads are gonna be jammed.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So we're not gonna really be able to get anywhere unless you know the
Right.
shortcut or cuts that will go,
That's right.
yeah.
And
So we have to replan.
that's true. And that's why I say, if we had a martial law situation where they were like, wherever they give you amount of time, and this has happened in other places. This has happened in cities in the USA, actually. You have to decide, you know, that I just wanted to, if you're going to be here, you're going to be here and you can focus that way. But if you were going to go to your son's house in Colorado or whatever, like that's something that you should think about.
Well, I always keep my gas tank at least half full, and at this point, with the price going up as fast as it is, when it gets to 3/4 of the tank, I go ahead and fill it because it's going up so fast.
Right,
It
that's
makes
good.
sense, but never let it get below half a tank.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That's a great point. Does anyone know how long it takes for gas to evaporate in a can, like in your garage?
No.
Y'all want to know?
Yeah.
We don't have garages.
Or, you know, under a tree out, you know, these are the kind of things, you can't really store gas. So that's why I said, you know, if that's something you got to do. I mean, I guess most of us here, we're in this community, you know, I felt like I should share that. 2 to 3, 4 months, depending on if it's cool, and you know, you're supposed to have a container, a certain container for it to keep, but it degrades and it isn't good for your engines if you use old gas and stuff like that. But it can last a little while. But I think just thinking about the can thing is something worth mentioning. Now, on the next thing on the green sheet, one answer here, another question. If something happens, you get the chance to go to one store or one place to get something. What's the store or the place, and what's the one thing that you would go get that you want more of, or you don't have? The one place and what? So, like a gas station gas, you know, I'll give you an example. So one place, because when these things come up, you know, we kind of experienced this during the COVID when people started running runs on places and wiping out the toilet paper and stuff, and people were
point. So, Bruce, think of
So we had bullets, we had matches, we had gold, we had seeds. About the gold, you should have small silver and gold pieces, not $2,000 Canadian maple leaves, because you can't, what are you gonna? I mean, I think that would be good if you have the means and the money and to have, for sure. But if you were only gonna put some of your resources into gold and silver, I think it might be good to have small. Is that what you think? Yeah.
And silver, even more than gold.
Yeah, the silver might be.
Green? I'm not going anywhere. She's not going.
Ounce is about $25.
Now, this was the question I started asking people. The Lord told me, and y'all are falling right into my trap, or the Lord's trap, or whatever. By the way, the best answer of the first question is alcohol. If you ask me, seeds is definitely good. But the alcohol, I guess, and you wrote that on here, is that an ethical question as a Christian?
It's a smart.
I want to know who's.
But I mean, it would be valuable just as a money. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
not necessarily, it's not going to do you much good, yourself.
It's
I mean,
aesthetic and it's a lot of things.
but same with coffee, the same with cigarettes. People that have y'all ever known a smoker that can't, or a coffee drinker that can't function? I mean, they're going to be, if you show up 6 months from now with a thing of coffee, they're, All right. Okay. Powdered milk, that's a good one. Everybody on here put the grocery store, except for the gas station. That's where everybody's going to go.
Where?
I'm good, yeah. They're going to go to the Walmarts and the grocery stores, and the stuff's going to be empty, and you're going to end up in a fight in the parking lot. You're going to have to shoot somebody for rolls of stuff. And that was what the Lord told me. And he said, and again, when I say that, I really believe it, but I'm not saying, thus saith the Lord, like, I'm just sharing what I've, he go to the hardware store and get pulleys and ropes, go to the Home Depot or Lowe's and get vinegar or whatever, not vinegar, you can't get vinegar there, but things that if you had to, plastic sheets, you can collect water, rainwater and stuff, but it would be thinking of places of whatever. It's important to know like the things that you need. One of the things I forgot to mention is to make a meal plan for 2 weeks of what you normally eat, and normally what's your routine? The coffee and one piece of chocolate, or whatever it is. To look at that and then set up your whole bartering thing around your normal needs and your normal wants for a 2-week thing is what I wanted to say. And we all have different eating habits and stuff. But if you are prepared with what you normally have, you're going to have a sound mind and be able to like start helping people. But you also might be surprised at what you consume in 2 weeks. And so that was something I feel like I should share. You and your people, your family, or whoever you live with, because we're all different. Totally. And don't assume that, I don't drink a lot of water. I drink a lot of coffee. But I don't, some of the people at my school, they drink 6 and 7 things of water a day. And, you know, I guess that's great, but depending on the food you eat, there's lots of water in the food, depending on what kind of food you eat. But if you drink a lot of water, that's, you know, you need a life straw. You guys have the life straws. You can drink out of that with those, supposedly, and they're like 10 to 12 bucks on Amazon for now. I got several packs of those to trade.
That's good.
And that's, you know, kind of the thinking is that somebody's going to want that. Bartering is about what other people want. It's not about what you, this is my opinion. What's the need? All right, so like in a situation where people are panicky, I think we need to avoid places where they're going to be fighting over toilet paper and stuff. And we need to be ahead of the curve on that. And you know, if you know what you normally eat in 2 weeks, and then you have, let's say you have 6 weeks, you should feel good about, okay, I don't have to worry about my food and water. I think that that's a great place to be. Joseph, Genesis 41, Joseph didn't store food for like the whole region. He stored it for Egypt. And it was probably just the northern part of Egypt, by the way. It's not like present day. So I don't think we're called to like got into a big argument with another big Christian walking around here with a beard that also works at the school. And he feels more like I'm going to give out and share and stuff. And I'm like, I'm not seeing that. Because what did Joseph do after he fed the people? He sold it. The people from the other nations, this is Genesis 41, 42. They came and he sold it. So I'm not a greedy, I don't think I'm a greedy person, but being practical and being like, this is, the Lord has given me this and that. I mean, you need to seek out all these boundary lines, I think, and where are you at with this stuff? And, you know, I knew somebody that had prepped a whole garage full of food, and I was like, what are you going to do? You're going to have the whole city's going to come out here, the zombies. You're going to have to set up a machine gun. And he goes, oh, I'll just give it away. And I'm thinking, well, that's a great idea. I mean, I hope you know, that is where, if we get there, that we are able to do a lot of that for sure. With Bibles, I have probably 100 or more Bibles I've collected over 10 years or so to give out or whatever. So, by the way, I wanted to say this. This guy said the farm exchange. See, if you're going there, when the thing's on the radio and like stock market's dropped another 900 points, or actually went up today. But the people are all going to go to the place that everybody milk, just like milk and bread during our ice storms here. But if you go to the place where they're not, then you're going to be in better situation. But, you know, the people who have the best answers, which, by the way, I want to give out a prize for, this is the next best thing. who wrote Farmer Exchange? If you don't mind sharing, you don't have to, okay? You're the winner.
Alcohol too.
And the alcohol, you're the double. You're sitting here with me.
Done, you're amazing.
Come over here, you have a prize, you get to select.
Oh, she gets.
Yes. So this is something that you might not have considered, but it's a street, it's a map.
I do.
And I'm gonna let you pick, because I have Virginia, Georgia, North Carolina, Tennessee, Florida. You can pick either. The North Carolina might be the best. But if you're headed to Georgia or somewhere, okay, congratulations.
Which one did she
Give
pick?
her a hand, North Carolina.
Carolina. Go to the mountains.
All right, so do you have any idea what the young people are going to do if the phone maps aren't working? Maybe even you. You remember, I mean, I used to open these in the car. I was pretty good at it because I was in Atlanta. I mean, I did some risky stuff holding the map. But can you imagine the young people? Just think about for a second the young people trying to drive. I mean, so maps is something to have, which I have quite a few. The Lord told me stuff like that, and I thought it was neat. And I collected, anytime I went to a garage sale, like how to tie knots, how to catch a fish, just any of that. I've just got stacks of those to trade. And it's all the Lord, I felt like. I'm not a hiker outdoors person, honestly. And so hopefully this is, but the next point I want to make is, what's your name, ma'am? Helen?
Yes.
You need to watch the people who have the best answers and keep your eye on them. And you also need to keep an eye on the people that are quiet whenever you have, because the people that are the big talkers and like, oh, I got 50 rounds of this, they might be great, but the ones who keep it to themselves are also need to be considered, because that it's not really, I don't think it's wise to broadcast a lot of stuff out in public. This is different. This is the point of this thing. But if you're out in the grocery store or somewhere doing a lot of talking, it's not really wise, I don't think. So, you definitely need to think about your medicines and your reading glasses. And that's another thing that I collect, which I sadly had to start doing in the last couple of years, the whole reading glasses thing, which has been the hardest thing for me. What are you bartering? I have a box of reading glasses. That's a pretty good, think about it. So if y'all are in a community like this, y'all have the advantage of, y'all might even want to have a time where you share, hey, I'm going to go after these 5 things. And you don't all have to swear you can't do it, but it is good to know that, those 5 things, those 5 things, those 5 things. Like if there's a ham radio person, the ham radio person shouldn't need to get rifles and rounds if he has a friend, and that's a tandem, that's a symbiotic relationship. So I don't know if y'all feel led to share that kind of stuff down the road. I think in a community like this, it would be a good idea for people to say, like, to share what you're, and it should be things that you like and that you feel. Like another one is fish hooks. They're cheap. It's something that people don't know. And the Lord told me all these things that, if I was to say, hey, what do you, it's going to be, and see, you guys are ahead of the curve, but if you go ask somebody that hasn't thought about any of this, it is like it is shocking and it is hilarious what they think of. And you have to go down that road mentally. But if somebody has fishing line and fish hooks, that's, it's hard to make a fish hook. So those are very cheap. Yeah.
Oh, it would be nice if we stocked the lake.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, people do fish in that lake.
There's a problem. Yeah, it would be good to do that. That there's going to be. That's going to be a run on that. There's almost going to need to be like guard posts and stuff on that. But if somebody's managing it, yeah, that would be great. And I don't know if y'all have ever done like tilapia and fish tanks in your garage. I've done that. That's kind of a common thing. You can do fish, catfish, and tilapia and stuff like in tanks, kind of like the seeds.
In your garage?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. A lot of people do. Yeah. And that's very beneficial because the water is great for your plants when you change it.
Great fertilizer.
And if the fish don't live, you throw that fish in, you plant a corn, you put the fish in the bottom of the hole, which is what the Native Americans taught us. There's a lot of advantages. And, but if somebody's doing fish or fish hooks and stuff, like you've got that, then somebody else is doing aspirin and I don't know. I'm just throwing out ideas. But I occasionally get this thing called iritis. My eye has something to do with a protein. It's an autoimmune something, and it's a painful thing. So I have an extra one in case I ever needed it, and it doesn't last. It's only good for like 2 years or so. But that for whatever it's worth for someone. If there's something that you suffer from, maybe even like once a year or something, you might want to have that medicine. Y'all probably thought of this before, but what are the top 10 foods that do not expire? Anybody, y'all can just say some out loud.
Microgreens.
No, those expire.
The seeds, they expire?
Well, the seeds will actually, they're less, the longer, honestly, seeds are designed, the Lord has designed them to be used every year. And so I have grown seeds that were like 20 years old, but they're not, you will only get 2 out of 50, but the Lord has made it, I think, you've got to keep planting it and trusting Him, and it's kind of like a manna thing. They don't sit. Now, some of the grains, I guess, like they find them in Egyptian things and they're 3,000 years old, but that's, most seed needs to be, so if you were going to grow crops, it would be good to grow just to make the seed for the next. And by the way, a carrot, it's hard to get seed from a carrot, but it's a biennial or whatever. But that if you let it go, that one seed will make hundreds and hundreds, and those are really good microgreens. But one carrot seed, I think a lot of them, mustard is like that. And, so the top 10 foods that pretty much do not expire: vinegar. It's not really a food, but you can get nutrients from it. Bouillon.
What? Bouillon. Oh,
Bouillon cubes. Okay, so I'm glad you said that. She said there's an expiration date.
Yes.
There are some foods where expiration dates do not matter.
What does that mean now?
Actually, it's treat, to be more specific. Depending on where you were raised, there was spam or treat. So, sardines and those fish steaks and things like that, they usually have a 3 to 5 year it's a best buy. But these things, generally, you can research this, these don't have an expiration date forever. Yeah. Well, no, I don't want to eat it, but I have that in case, it ever got to. And actually, it's funny, sardines and those things now they find are very beneficial of the omegas and stuff. And so a lot of like young people are eating those in their like hippie cool diets. They're eating sardines because they're beneficial. But that's still a good thing to get. I started forcing myself to eat them. Because my dad used to eat them, and I would always watch him and like, how are you doing it? So I just kept making myself, because I was like, if I have to eat these one day, I want to be able to do it. So that's the kind of thing that I felt like the Lord would do. He's like, just start eating these sardines. And I'm like, what? And it's practical, like, well, if I have to, I'm just not going to worry about it. If I tried to make my son eat them, they're like freak out about it.
The sardines also are low in mercury, and anchovies are very similar to sardines are low in mercury.
Mm-hmm.
Can you repeat that for the?
He said that the sardines are actually low in mercury compared to the other problems, the fish that have high levels, they have low that. Yeah, they're finding out it's like a superfood, actually. And I got a lot of oysters. I prefer those over the canned ones. But
Is that on the list of the top 10?
no.
Oh.
So honey does
Okay.
not expire.
Honey is a good food.
And if you study it, actually, the whatever's in it, the longer it's there, it gets rid of any if there is any bacteria, it eats it, kills it. So maple syrup is also a similar thing. Cornstarch, which is not necessarily a food, but popcorn kernels is a good one to. That is a great thing to have a lot of if you can find cheap, because you can feed chickens with that. That's a really good. Everybody likes popcorn.
Do they have to be popped for the chickens, or they eat them like hard?
No, they'll eat the corn for sure, but they love the popped. By the way, chickens. So I started out. A teacher gave me 4 chickens, and then I told some guy. He said, "You got any chickens on your farm, man?" I got 4. He goes, 4. He said, a year from now you'll have 40.
Wow.
And he was right. And so now I have about 90. And I don't know exactly how that happened, but they take care of themselves, and most of mine free range, and they eat a lot of grass.
Would you like some geese?
Well,
Okay, so on that note,
I have and I just got into the turkeys, so I'm not sure, Mike. But you're talking about the ones out here?
Yeah.
Rick one time somebody said, we need to get rid of these geese. And he said, well, I don't think so. We might need them one day to eat them. Because they were worse. They used to poop like all over
they still do.
They do? Well, I haven't seen it like it used to be when they were first here.
The maintenance guys are.
But somebody said, why don't you get a geese dog and all this stuff? And they were like, no, we might need to eat them one day.
They did get a geese dog.
They did?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Well,
a couple years ago.
I mean, if they get rid of all the geese and this happens, somebody's gonna be sad.
Can you repeat this? I remember when we were talking, you said first indication of the stock market crashing or a major emergency, we need to grab a male and a female. I remember you saying we need to grab a male and a female geese and throw them in the courtyard before they're
Before they all get eaten. Yeah.
exactly.
Ah,
Yeah.
your own breeding couple.
Right. Because of the eggs, you know, and that's what would happen, you know. People would freak out and go, just take all the fish, or they would kill all the, you know, and that's how people are when they, like, natural. It takes somebody with like a Joseph.
We need to have a different plan than geese, because we need to have a different plan than geese, because I used to raise ducks.
Okay.
And a mature male duck, when I was in my 40s, was almost impossible to grab. And there is no way you could control these geese. You need something smaller than the geese.
Michael Fickus did a gardening presentation. He recommends quail. Just saying.
Yeah.
Well, you know, we could all go back and forth on all that. Quail are definitely good, but if you have all this water out here, I would have lots of ducks and geese. And now I catch all of my ducks.
Ducks?
The male ones are the easiest.
What kind of ducks?
They're peking.
Muscovy.
Well, you
Muscovies
should
were
get.
12
Well, then don't
pounds.
get them. Get the other ones.
I'm just saying, but geese are twice as big as them.
Well, those fat. You know, you can catch them if you're hungry enough. You can catch them.
As long as we're on survival, and the folks around here have to deal with geese occasionally, if they attack you, it's really easy to get them to turn around. Spread your wings.
Oh, wow.
They have an intense ability to recognize how wide the other the other goose's wings are, and they're going to back off if your wings are wider. I've tried it multiple times when I hit a golf ball in with the geese, and they were coming after me. All you have to do is spread your wings.
Good tip, thank you.
Yeah, you can also hit them in the head with your golf club or your shoe.
Migratory bird laws.
Well, we're not talking about migratory federal laws today. But no, quail are great. I have those. Their eggs are real nutritious. But see, somebody would have to do a chicken. Do y'all have any chickens around here yet?
Not
Somebody
yet.
should go ahead and start doing some. Forget all the rules or whatever, because they're the hens are so easy, and they don't even say anything. I mean, there's probably somebody here that has them, and you don't even know it. I mean,
Before we conclude the meeting, I just want to mention something. Dave's reading the book 1 Second After. I know probably Adrian recommended it, but it was a worst case scenario from when an EMP hit and how a community up in the mountains survived. And the thing that I remember from when I read it a few years ago is leadership is very important. So the things that Clint is talking about of how to organize yourselves in a community is very important. And it was the historian who was actually emerged as the leader of that group.
yeah.
So, because he had a breadth of information on how to do things.
Yeah, I think God's made us all with some kind of aspect of Him, and I don't think they're meant to be alike. I think that we're all meant to be. So how can we find out each other's? Somebody might sing and bring all their spirits up,
Right.
you know, and the person who might be the good leader might be the quiet person, not the biggest, squawker.
May I ask a question?
Yeah.
Did you finish your 10 things list?
Yeah, so dried beans for pretty much forever. And with some minimal care, sugar, salt, powdered milk, and rice, if they're kept cool, and you can't let moisture get near the salt, and you can keep like powdered sugar powdered milk in the freezer indefinitely. But those are just some foods that long shelf life. So before I conclude, these are some other things that I came up with that you might not like: the fish hooks, the how-to books, sunglasses, reading glasses, lighters, and I guess matches. Heirloom seeds, and you need to order them carefully because a lot of people say organic and heirloom and they're not, and they've been engineered to not, because they want you to buy them again.
This person wants to come in.
Oh, we left.
And so another thing is there any cattails on this water?
They killed them,
Who killed them?
the association across the lake.
Well, that's something you can eat, and I took some and started growing them in pots. You can grow them in a pot. You put a bag, and that would be something that's a food source if you have water like this.
Talking about cattails,
Yeah.
punks.
Yeah.
You're gonna eat that?
Well, I don't want to, but
Well, dandelions.
oh yeah, dandelions. I have like these books like what can you eat, and we're not going to be able to get on the internet perhaps. And so you need to print off some of this. If God makes you, like if you have a expertise in what weeds you can eat, that would be very valuable.
Yes.
I was going to give you, before y'all go, I wanted to say, first of all, I wanted to say this, that
Amen. Yes.
that's my final message. Is, it's easy to get down sometimes. Some of us.
What was our yellow tick thing for?
Okay, I'm gonna end with that one.
Okay.
But I made a food calorie chart, and does anyone know how many calories you need to survive a day?
No, they say 1,200 is the milk.
So depending on your view, 1,000 to 2,000 is a low. And can anybody tell me a boiled egg, how much calories it is? Okay. So that's the kind of thing that would be good to know. How much is the pack of sardines, 5 crackers, and you add it up, and you're like, okay, I got my 1,200, my 1,500. That's what I was sort of referring to. So I made now the problem with this is that it's very small because it's a chart. And I have to actually look at it through a magnifying glass, but which would be another good item. Or I also have these, some of y'all might have these magnifiers like that. But I brought that for everyone. This tells like most of the foods. If somebody wants to, it is small, but it says like a mint leaf. Any idea how many calories is in a mint leaf? 15. Yeah. A mustard leaf. Well, it says 100 grams, so it would probably be 6 or 7. 34. One small radish. Any idea? 120.
Whoa.
Well,
We're growing radishes.
check it out. There are some things on here you might. Yeah. All right, so the last thing on the last sheet of whatever, what color is it? Yellow?
Yeah.
is I think what you should do is write what's one thing one thought or concern you have about all of this or want to know, and give it to Adrian or whoever is after hearing this, after thinking, you might say, hey, who's gonna head up the chickens or whatever it is. I was just thinking y'all could put one question or observation and give it to the leaders, after hearing this. So I'll pray us out. Thank you, Lord, for bringing us together. And we thank you that you are above all these things, that you've given us a sound mind and not a spirit of fear, and that you love us, you've set this community here, and that we're put here for such a time as this, and that while we're here, we must have a purpose. So we pray that we'd hear your voice, and we would rest in you, and we would be a peace. We would bring peace to the world and those around us. And all these things we pray in Jesus' name.